Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of Council to hear submissions to budget 2022-2023. I'm going to start with the acknowledgement of country. To start the official proceedings, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Jara country, of which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. Present today, we have Councillor McClure. We have Executive Manager of Corporate Services, Carolyn Ross. Councillor Tony Cordy. I am Deputy Mayor Anea. CEO Darren Fozzard. Councillor Stephen Gardner. Councillor Matthew Driscoll. Up on the screen we have Director Lisa Knight and Director Michael Anea. Apologies for today, Councillor Christine Henderson and Mayor Bill Maltby. Are there any declarations of interest and conflicts of interest?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm not a conflict with Main, not with Main FM, but their request because I'm a chairman of Workspace.
Great.
Which is they're our tenant.
4 officer reports. 4.1 community nil. 4.2 environment nil. 4.3 economy. 4.3.1 2022/2023 budget public submissions. Councillor Cordy will introduce.
Thanks for that, Deputy Mayor Anea. At the meeting of Council on 19th of April 2022, Council resolved to give public notice that it had prepared a budget for 2022-2023. This document was available for public viewing for 21 days. Council invited members of the public to provide submissions to the budget from midday Wednesday 20th of April to 5 p.m. Wednesday 11th of May. At the special meeting of Council on 24th May 2022, Council will hear from those submitters who indicated they wish to speak in support of their submission. Council will then consider the submission in readiness for the adoption of the proposed annual budget 2022-2023 at the meeting of Council on Tuesday 21st June 2022. And I would like to move that Council 1 notes the submissions to the proposed annual budget 2022-2023 and hears the presentations in support of those submissions, and 2, considers the submissions to the proposed annual budget 2022-2023 prior to adoption of the budget at the meeting of Council on Tuesday 21st of June 2022.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gardner, all in favour? Motion passed. All right, we will get on. We're going to get on to the public submissions. So you're each going to have 3 minutes to speak. One person per submission. We're going to be standing on the left hand. There's a button you need to press and it'll go red and that means it's on. At 30 seconds left, we'll give you a little kind of wrap it up kind of thing. And then you can probably end with 3 minutes. You don't too much over, you're going to have to like it up and stop. But tiny bit here and next week. After that, councillors will ask you questions. So if you just want to stay there for a minute to see what questions there are. And great.
Yeah. If we stay within the time limit, can we both?
That is fine, yes. All right, so going through the list, we're starting with Chewton Pool. How much slow it down? And if you can, when you come up, just introduce yourself so we know who we have before us. That would be great.
All right, it's just the buttons, big gravy.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jane Peters. I'm the president of Shooting Pool Inc. So good evening, councillors and staff and members of the public. As you may remember, Shooting Pool Inc. came to you last year at the last budget meeting, requesting an urgent increase in the funding provided to the pool, and you agreed. We're very pleased, thank you. And we're here tonight not to request more funds, relieved to know, but we're going to report briefly on how to spend your funds, and we are going to request a change in the management of the funding allocation. So some of you remember Shooting Pool, its unique history, its management structure, built by volunteer labour in 1959, took the community 13 years to raise the money and build, and then for the last 11 years, the pool has gone back to a community management model. But the pool really only survives with council's help. So the council funds pay the staffing and training costs, and we raise the other 50% of our income through memberships, pool entry, kiosk takings, sponsorship grants and swim lessons. The council contribution has been provided to us for the last 10 years via a 3-year funding agreement. This 3-year funding model has not operated for the last 2 years, and the Committee of Management is requesting that we go back to this 3-year model. We would like council to guarantee the future funding over a 3-year period so that the Committee of Management can apply for grants, and we need to be able to plan for future seasons without worrying about whether we're going to employ staff this year. And not that I don't enjoy coming and talking to you each year, but it would improve our ability to plan, to know how much money we'll be getting each year, and the last 3 years have shown that life is pretty unpredictable anyway. The Shooting Pool has been incredibly successful, operating under a partnership agreement with the council. Our entrance numbers this season of over 7,000 visitors shows that the Mount Alexander community has enjoyed the benefits. The 2021 council funding allocation was $74,500. This covers the cost of staffing the pool for a 19-week season. Our staffing levels comply now with Life Saving Victoria's guidelines, and the level of supervision was a huge improvement this last season. With the increased allocation and appeal to our community, we're able to overcome the national lifeguard shortage. We trained 18 lifeguards, including 13 juniors, many of whom were employed for the first time with us, and we did not lose a single day to staffing issues over our season. So the Committee of Management is now focusing on maintenance and repairs to our pool shell.
You've got 30 seconds left.
And future works to our toilets and change rooms. We're very grateful to Council for including us in an engineering safety assessment of the council pools, and we're looking forward to receiving that report in the coming months. We've begun preparing the community with a major fundraising initiative, and we'll be seeking philanthropic, corporate and government grants. The Shooting Pool has provided opportunities for recreation and community connection for 11 years on a shoestring budget, utilising the free labour of a dedicated community. But as our numbers increase, so do our costs, and in particular the cost of utilities and repairs. And for this reason, we're asking that our future funding model includes CPI increases over the 3-year period, rather than fix the allocation as it was in the past. This will allow us to make improvements to our staffing systems and operations and continue to expand our services to our community rather than treading water. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councillors, are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from Margaret Panter.
My name's Margaret Painter. My focus for the budget is the natural environment. One of the Shire's most precious assets is its remnant Indigenous vegetation occurring on council managed land along roads and waterways and in the Flora and Fauna Reserve of the Economic Botanical Gardens, as well as in other conservation reserves and on private land. Environmental weeds harm natural ecosystems by replacing Indigenous plants, In recent years, council has increased the amount of money for removing weeds. And I thank council for that. But because many weed infestations were left uncontrolled for years, there's still a huge amount of work to do. So I'm requesting a further increase for the weeds budget. In the budget before last, there was an extra $10,000 for weed removal, which was continued in the budget that followed. I'm asking council to double that to $20,000 in this budget. I'm also requesting more staff, more on-ground workers for weed removal, and an extra natural environment officer, who could be part-time, to help organise weed removal and protection of roadside Indigenous vegetation, and to help other departments understand council's policies on protecting Indigenous vegetation so they can avoid damaging. Council has been getting a donation every year of thousands of dollars worth of volunteer labour doing weed removal. For example, as a volunteer, I coordinate a project to get rid of needlegrass type weeds from council land in Castlemaine. This includes organising volunteer working bees and organising workers paid by a grant from the council. The project requires persistence as seeds in the soil can keep germinating for 15 years. Many of the infestations have now been greatly reduced, and some sites appear to be free of these weeds. I plan to retire from this work next year, partly for health reasons, and I'd like council to continue the progress by employing someone to take over the work. This could be an on-ground worker in the Natural Environment Department for a minimum of 1.5 days a week. To summarise my requests, I'm asking for the budget to focus more on natural environment, and specifically, 1, increase the amount for weed removal. 2, 1 or more extra on-ground workers, minimum 1.5 days a week. And 3, an extra natural environment officer. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Margaret. Councillors, do we have any questions? Tony?
Margaret, the needlegrass, where's that most prevalent?
It's scattered, well, it's actually in other places in the Shire, but I've been concentrating on Castlemaine. And in Castlemaine, it's scattered, but some of the worst infestations have been on council parks and gardens. The botanical gardens has had a really bad infestation, which is now a lot less bad, making a lot of progress there. Other parks, such as the Norwood Hill Park. And also there's a severe infestation in West Castlemaine, both on roadsides, or has been on roadsides, but really getting out of control there. Still on some private land in West Castlemaine. And there's lots of other places, but too many to I've got a map. I've got a map I can give you if that would help.
That would be great if you want to table that, we'll have a look at that.
Okay.
The CEO has a question.
Thanks, Debbie. Margaret, just wondering the amount council responded last year, as you say, and increased the budget by 10,000, saying add another 10,000 for that.
I think it was the same 10,000. Yeah. So
Yeah, so
2 years ago, $10,000 extra.
yes,
And then it continued that extra. It didn't sort of.
yes,
Take it back.
just add another 10 to that.
Yeah.
And
So
keep that and add another
that's
10.
right. Yeah.
Why is can you tell us about why that's the right number?
It's no. Like really, it needs lots and lots and lots of money. Heaps more than that. But I'm aware that council's not sitting on a gold mine, or maybe it is. But so yeah, you have to be realistic enough for what I think is, might be available.
Any other questions? Thank you, Margaret, for your submission.
Okay, well, we come back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Main FM.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks for your time today, Council. Do appreciate it, it's precious, so very happy to be here. My name is Richard McLeish. I'm the President of Main FM, a local community radio station. We're going to talk as briefly as possible today, a little bit about Main FM, who we are, what we do, and how we do it, and also how our core values align with the Council. I'm not alone, as you can see, I'm here with Steph Riddle, our wonderful station manager. She's in charge of the day-to-day and oversees operations, so she's probably in a better position to talk about what happens day-to-day. So I'll hand to her.
Thanks, Rich. Hi, everyone. So for a small community radio station, Main FM punches well above its weight. Our core Main FM value is diversity, as outlined in our inclusion policy. Our presenters are aged between 14 and 80 years of age. Just under 50% of our presenters are women. We have people representing the LGBTQI+ community, young people, people with disabilities. In terms of Council's first pillar, a healthy, connected and inclusive community, we couldn't be better aligned. As a radio station, our primary function is to facilitate connection, conversation and engagement between community members and organisations. We have shows that cover the full spectrum of politics, current affairs, climate change, connections to country, First Nations, gardening, parenting, ageing, it goes on. In any given week, we engage with over 60 local community organisations and over 50 local businesses through on-air interviews, conversations, news and announcements, projects and events. So even through the pandemic, we continue to operate as an essential service, providing both our presenters and our listeners an important bridge of community cohesion and resilience. We engage Council's second pillar, a flourishing environment for nature and people, by facilitating conversation, investigation and dissemination of information about the climate. In fact, one of our shows, Saltgrass, which was initially created with the Mount Alexander Shire Council grant, community grant, was listed last year in the New York Times as one of the top 5 podcasts to listen to about climate change. So how do we do it? The bulk of our financial support comes through project-based government grants, majority of them being federal. We're moving towards a model of self-sufficiency and we generate increasing amounts of funding through sponsorship and subscribers. This aligns with us with Council's third pillar, a resilient and growing local economy. So as all the money that comes through Main FM is returned directly back into the community. We're asking for $5,000 today to help with our rent. It's difficult for us to secure operational funding for a core cost like rent. Most of our funding is project-based. $5,000 a year would cover approximately half of our rent for the year. And it'll enable us to grow and secure our financial future.
Thank you, Steph. Just to reiterate, we're a unique community organisation in that we have the ability to reach right across the Shire into almost every aspect of it, just by the nature of the radio station. And so any contribution to council would stretch right across this Shire in ways that align with both of our shared values. I think we offer a really good bang for your buck, so to speak. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions?
I'm from Oldham, you can't get the radio in Oldham, just let you know, so.
We're working on it. Councillor Cordy?
So just in terms of the extra funding you've asked for, what's that, what difference is that going to make?
It will make a difference in the sense that the funding that we receive through government grants are linked to projects. They're project-based. And so whilst we do receive a lot of project-based funding, it enables us to do all the amazing things that we do in terms of broadcasting, events, outside broadcasts, all these
workshops, all the different types of community engagement we do, but it goes straight back out. And we keep a small administrative fee. It's difficult to gain funding out there for core operational costs, such as rent. So
Thank you.
So the 5,000 are you saying as a one-off or one-off continuing? Does that make sense?
We are moving towards a model of self-sufficiency. So I guess this is a beginning of a conversation with council. So $5,000 this year would be greatly appreciated.
Any further questions? All right, thank you for your CEO.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, can I just ask, just on the grants page on page 11, thank you, this is really helpful for us. The first grant that's listed says operational grant, which is for station managers. So
Yeah.
can you just talk us through what that means?
yeah, sure. So we have the operational funding we receive from CBF covers salaries. So we have 3 part-time staff members, and it covers 2 of those staff members. And yeah, that's the a lot of the on costs we have to cover ourselves, super, etc. Yeah. But our day-to-day operational costs, as in rent, utilities, our licensing, agreements, insurance, all those types of operational costs we have to cover ourselves.
Through getting
Through sponsorships, subscriptions, fundraising events.
Thank you very much for your submission. We need to get Councillor Driscoll. And next up is Lana Osterfield.
My name's Lana Osterfield, and on the Castlemaine website, Shaping Castlemaine, I put an article about Christmas decorations because at the end of last year, someone mentioned that the council, I believe, had approached a creative group to make Christmas decorations for the town, but it was in October and there wasn't enough time for it to happen. I believe this to be a wonderful idea because we have so many creative people in this town. The young lady that's accompanied me, Louise, is an artist, and you have her work in front of you, which I think is wonderful. And the slogan is so correct for the town. But what we need is support from the council so that we can run this event and get people active. We need financial support. We need to get people together and make decisions about what we're going to do. And we need an area to work. We need storage space. And we need to know about the permissions we will need to do this work. So hopefully you will support us in this idea. I sent information to the Manager of Economy and Culture via Fiona McGuinness. I know Fiona through the sport group for the aged, and I thought she was my good starting point. So Fiona handed this on to Marilyn. And so hopefully we can work on a project that will liven the town and make it an individual Christmas. There was a lot of criticism about Christmas decorations last year. I was talking to my neighbour before I came here and she was horrified at what happened last year. She didn't feel that it was Christmas. We need to involve the community. And that's what I'm advocating for.
Great, thank you, Myra. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Driscoll.
Do you have an estimated cost of all that?
Not really. I'm somewhere between 5 and 10, I'd say. Louise herself is an artist and wants to be paid for her work, which I think is only fair, because she is planning on doing a 12 Days of Christmas book and involving the school children around the community to do the illustrations for it. She also understands the Posca, which is the white pen. So during the Fringe Festival, there were some drawings on Bruce's kitchen window in Posca, and they were quite clever, and getting the businesses involved as well is what we'd like to do.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for your submission. Next up, we have Melbourne Focus Swimming Pool Committee.
Answer here from the focus group, the Melbourne Pool. It's as council knows, it's a fully funded pool from the council and administered by the YMCA. And the focus group helps to suggest improvements and raises extra money for things in and around the pool. So in the last few years, the committee had raised money for solar, for the change rooms, solar blanket for the pool, new furniture. That's the sort of thing that we tried to do. And we've been quite successful at getting small grants from other parts of the system. But we realised that we were losing, we couldn't advance the pool much because it was by, not intentionally, but by misadventure probably at the beginning, but access to our pool is very hard. And so we realised that what was stopping us, including more people using the pool, was simply access. So the pool is quite old, it's a beautiful pool and it's well maintained, but it has vertical ladders to get in and out of. It's very difficult for people who are in any way compromised physically, whether they're old or young, to use the pool very successfully. I mean, it's intimidating to use these ladders for a lot of people, dangerous for some and impossible for others. So we thought we have to solve this problem. There are no pools we know of ever now been built which don't have access stairs. So we decided, unless that happens, we really can't expand the participation in the pool. And already the pool is running very successful water aerobics, lap swimming, etc., etc. And so what we need to do is to get money for stairs. Now that's not cheap, and we know that. So we've embarked on a program of getting some finance. So we've raised $8,000 or so. We've got support from the local hospital, the local school. These are the people who use or would use the pool if it had access. So what we're suggesting is that the council invest long-term in a set of access stairs for the pool. This would not be it's not going to be a cheap proposition, but it's a long-term proposition. Sorry.
30 seconds to go.
Oh, it's a long-term proposition, but the payoff, as you know, for things like the pool, for local community organisations and things that people value in a small community. The payoff is in social adhesion. You know the arguments about people being kind to one another and help and enjoy other people getting access to things, even if they don't use it themselves. So we've had a lot of feedback from people signing petitions and giving money. So what we're suggesting is that the council set aside money for this rather large project, which is, if you like, infrastructure with no maintenance costs. And so over a period of 40 years, it will be a small, reasonable contribution for the council to make for something that will last a long time. So we think that would appeal to financial officer. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have any questions? Councillor McClure.
Thank you for your submission. Have you got a budget for this? The budget keeps changing dramatically. As you know, things are gone up 20%. Well, we had a budget made in 2017. Everything got mucked up. And so the long-term budget over 40 years will be probably in the vicinity of 80 grand.
For the installation of stairs. For the installation of stairs. For the installation of stairs.
Oh, the installation, yeah. It would cost probably around about 80,000. But if you're looking at the long term, over 40 years, the council invests wisely. It's a long-term thing. Other people down the track will benefit from it. And it's, it's a couple of thousand every year for 40 years, which is not much.
So are they actually stairs or are they a ramp?
Oh, it's access stairs.
I think I was going to ask, because I've heard this problem mentioned before, but from the user perspective, stairs as opposed to a ramp, it's stairs that you're looking for.
Stairs.
Either.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, but obviously a ramp might be a bigger project, that's what I'm. So
we really
would the committee or would your group be happy with stairs?
I think we've always thought it'd be stairs. So
We're not thinking little stairs, we're thinking wider stairs.
Normal pools have access for people doing water aerobics, doing exercise. So we're looking to include older people, but also a lot of young people at school, saying a lot of kids will benefit from being able to access to the gym, mothers and or parents bringing toddlers and others to go get access. Everyone's worried about water safety.
Council staff had a plan and a budget prepared in 2017, and they were for steps, but quite a complex area of steps and access, and that was budgeted at 65,000 in 2017.
We think it would be very visionary about council.
The plan's already there.
Are there any further questions? Thank you for your submission. Next on our list, we have youth takeover. Next, we have Dr. Dave Camilleri.
Good evening, thanks for having me here. And I see that I'm in all those projects, and so it's really good to hear about some of the great things going on. I'm here, I guess, to speak on the behalf of younger community members. I would like to bring to your attention the BMX facilities at Western Reserve, and I'm a BMXer myself, so I will benefit. There's a conflict of interest there. I do like to go there, and I was there on the weekend and get the kids down and had a bit of ride there, and it's great to see so many young people partaking in that, not sitting down on the computer playing games and actually sort of getting out and doing stuff. In many councils across Melbourne, maybe heard, a lot of kids do go out in the bush, dig jumps and do a sort of guerrilla BMX, do it your own style way, which is it has its benefits for those kids, but sometimes it can be upsetting for people who care about the environment and weeds, etc. And I do understand. And so I guess what I'm proposing is having some upgrades done to the Western Reserve BMX area to sort of bring some of these kids out of the bushes, because I do know there's probably a handful of places where young people do go and do this sort of work, and having them sort of come out and be a bit more visible in some part, but also making it attractive enough for them to be able to go there to engage, at multiple levels. I think one thing that is often misunderstood in the design of that sort of environment is the multiple levels to which kids can engage with this. When we're talking even, really basic, and kids who are 3 or 4 years old, they can roll over things, but then you've got adults like myself who would need, things that are more bigger, but also teenagers. And it's really, again, amazing to see the level of skill in BMXs, and as you all know, it's an Olympic sport these days. And when I grew up, we used to get into a lot of trouble riding our BMX, but now you can get a gold medal, which is really hard to see. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if he's broken the law to practice his BMX, because you're not allowed to ride your BMX some places where adults stay, and so you get into trouble really quickly. In any case, I guess, and I don't really have a figure on what it might look like in terms of repairs there. There are some immediate, risks there in terms of the surface, eroding and exposing some of the underfill. A lot of times when these sort of facilities are constructed, they put in sort of rocks and bigger things underneath to save money, and then put on this sort of top dressing, which is really grainy. But again, that can wear away. You end up with rocks at the bottom. Kids wash out. There's a local kid, Levi, I'm sure you know him. He fell there and sort of ripped his lip open on the rocks, and it's pretty dangerous in sort of, the short term. There's a short-term investment, and then also a longer-term investment, which ideally would be great to have it sealed so it's not eroding, and then you don't have to try to repair it consistently. But then there are other ways in which it also can be improved, with dirt being put down there and the locals building it. There's a lot of different ways which I'm also open to discuss with you all. But I'm sure a lot of kids who sort of gravitate to those spaces aren't always connected to, formal institutions. And this is my PhD, as I'm a doctor, is on disengaged, alienated kids in high school, especially, and the reasons why they disengage from formal education and where they choose to express their creativity. And my research showed that a lot of these kids who are disengaged from formal schooling do like to express their creativity in places like BMXing, or you were talking about graphing before, and just they're doing things that are pretty much informal, which is sometimes not really controlled or regulated by adults, because their learning could be different. There's a whole number of factors, could be trauma, all sorts of stuff. But one really protective factor with BMX and having a healthy BMX community is the connectedness, the inclusivity, and just everyone sort of being there for the same purpose, to ride their bikes, support each other. And some of my research currently is on this, and I'm looking to do some work with the Bendigo City Council on this and some of the jumps up there. And they've been there since '98, I think. This is the first time I visited jumps in Bendigo, and they've got quite a strong community up there. So I am looking to sort of broaden that work out, and hopefully we will get a research grant and work to research this further. But there is, I think, a lot of kids out there, who will benefit from this, and also parents, knowing that their child is engaging in something physical, they're connected, but also in a relatively safe environment. So obviously BMX is...
Sorry, I'll get you to wrap up when you can.
No worries, I was thinking just only 3 minutes.
I was distracted by
The screening's fair out there, I'm sorry. But basically, it'd be really good to minimise the risks of BMX, and one way to do that would be to provide safe facilities, so if they fall, you're not being ripped up, basically, on the rocks. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Question, Councillor McLaughlin.
The BMX part of the facility down here is the gravel bit, not the concrete bit.
Yeah, exactly. So the skate park is really fun and fantastic, and but it's the actual the gravelly bit. So it can still stay in the same footprint, but there are so many different combinations in terms of upgrading it. like resurfacing it or, you know, new design, resurface it and sealing it. But again, you know, the costs obviously go up the more is involved. But yeah, that's something I'm happy to have a discussion about to see, you know, what it might look like. But and happy to go down there with you and talk about possibilities. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for your submission. All right. All right, thank you. Thank you for all coming in and sending us submissions to us in person.
It actually helps a lot when we can hear straight from you.
So from here, the annual budget will come to the 21st of June meeting for adoption. And in the meantime, we will consider all the submissions we received as the budget's been at for public submission. So thank you all for coming in. I'm going to close the meeting now.